What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel, Talks with John. In my previous video, I talked about how I almost unexpectedly lost my mother to breast cancer. I say almost unexpectedly because I realized that she didn't want to tell me about the diagnosis, but I noticed different signs and I guess indicators that pointed to the fact that she had breast cancer. And I spent almost a year in agony and pain, hoping and trying to figure out what was going on, but also trying to respect the fact that she didn't want to tell me. And in the week that I decided to ask her what was going on, she passed away unexpectedly. I don't want to share my father or my sister's story because they knew at the time, but it was unexpected even for them who had been walking with her throughout the year that she was living after being diagnosed with breast cancer. They took her to the hospital because she was having some issues and she unexpectedly passed away. So it was definitely an unexpected loss for everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about how I processed that loss and what I did to grieve, how I coped with grief after losing a parent, after losing a loved one. And I want to preface this video first and foremost by saying I'm not a therapist, but this was definitely a tragic event that happened in my life. I may say things that will help people, but I'm not a therapist, so I can't tell anyone the given steps they should take to grieve. I can only tell you what worked for me. I think that's what grief is. Grief is individualized. Everyone will go through their own process of grief, and I'm only going to talk about what worked for me. And if something stands out to you, if you feel encouraged by something or something helps you, that is a blessed, because that's what this channel is all about. All right, let's get into the video. So this video is about grief, and I have to say that looking back at my experience, I felt like I had a stage of grief prior to losing my mother because I realized what was going on. I knew that it was cancer, and we know cancer can go either way. So it was a year of agony. It was a year of hoping and praying and wishing that she was okay, but not knowing if she was okay. I didn't know the extent of her diagnosis. So it was a lot of prayer, it was a lot of petitioning. God, don't take my mom. I don't want to lose her so early. I was 21 at the time, almost into my senior year in college. She actually passed a few days before I was getting ready to start my senior year in college. So, you know, like I said, I realized things leading up to her death, but had hoped and prayed that everything was going to be okay. Not knowing the extent of what was going on, there were a lot of sleepless nights. There were a lot of nights where I just cried, and, you know, I think I'd only reached out to one person and kind of went through the experience of telling them what was going on, but not really sharing it with anyone else. And after I lost her, I remember my sister and my father came to me and told me they had just walked in the house, and it was a feeling that I can't explain, that I can't give language to. It's like a part of you has been ripped away immediately. And for me, I went through this stage of denial. Like, I just remember after they told me, of course I broke down, I was in tears, but I kept asking, are you sure? Like, where did she pass? She passed in the hospital. Can we go back to the hospital to see, to make sure? Like, how do we know? I mean, it was just, I could not fathom this moment in my life. You know, you never think you're going to lose a parent. You never think you're going to lose anyone close to you. And I didn't understand what was going on. It's like you're staring down this black hole and you're hoping that everything will change somehow, that you're in this dream that you'll eventually wake up from. And I just remember crying and screaming, which I had never done before, but it was like my soul was also grieving the loss of this person in my life. And it was an experience that I can't really describe or explain today. After losing her, of course, everyone comes to the house to visit. You know, in our culture, we have a repast. We bury the person within 3 to 4 days. And during that time, we're preparing for the funeral, and everyone's visiting family, friends, loved ones. And she was loved by so many people. She was a teacher, a pastor's wife. So she touched a lot of lives. She was a light to a lot of people. So everyone came to visit. And I received from those people some of the best advice that I ever could have received to prepare for this. And two pieces of advice that stick out to me, and I'll talk about them in detail in the video. The first piece of advice was, don't suppress your emotions. When you want to grieve, grieve. No matter where you are, what you're doing, let it out. There is a freedom that you feel when you're able to just let out the way you feel. Aside from losing someone, it doesn't help anyone to suppress their emotions. And that certainly helped me so much throughout my grieving process. There were moments when I would be driving in the car. There would be moments when I would be in a grocery store, at work, wherever, and I would just have to let it out, you know? If I had to go to the restroom, my car, wherever, I would just let it out. And I felt so much better when I did that. I mean, 1,000 times better. But after losing my mother, like I said, it was a few days before my senior year in college, and I realized that life goes on. This tragic event has happened to you, and you can't do anything to get it back. You can't change it at all. I read this book titled It's Okay That You're Not Okay by Megan Devine. I hope I'm saying her name right. But in the book, she says, there is no fix to grief. It can't be made right. You are now in a new normal. You live life on new terms, but life around you goes on. And it's so true because I had to return to my life as normal. Everything around you goes on as normal. The people around you continue to live their lives as normal. And I decided that it was best for me to take a week off from school. And naturally, I was really nervous about that because it was the start of my senior year in college. So I remember going to my apartment during that first week. My best friend, she took me to my apartment to get some clothes, and I said, okay, let's stop by campus. My professors had already reached out. They were familiar with everything, and they made sure to let me know to take my time. But I said, okay, I'm not going to get too far behind. I at least want to touch base with my advisor and make sure I'm getting all the work that I need. And I went to campus, sat with my advisor, and of course, she gave me her condolences, but within 10 seconds of the conversation, she's laying on me everything that I need, everything that I missed in class so far, everything that I'm going to need in the coming weeks, the projects, the assignments, the quizzes, the tests. And I'm listening to her, and she's like, oh my God, you're going to miss so much. Just within this first week, you're going to miss so much. And I remember sitting back like, wow, this goes on. Like, life doesn't stop for me. It doesn't stop because I've lost my mom. It continues. I have to continue. I'm expected to be a productive person in society and continue with my responsibilities. And I have to keep going. As unfortunate as this event has been in my life, I can't expect anything around me to stop unless I decide I'm going to take a break from school, which I didn't want to do. So that was the first realization that I made. The second thing that helped me tremendously was another piece of advice that someone gave me that visited the house. And that was, don't expect a lot of people to be there for you. And I'm thinking, why is this person sharing this with me? Why are they telling me this? And they had lost their mother, so they had already been through this. And they just flat out told me, like, don't expect all of these people. They're visiting, they're coming by, they're eating the food, they're hugging, they're giving condolences. But after this, after the funeral is over, their life goes on and they forget all about you. I kept thinking, nah, that's not possible. Like, they know, like, you just lost a mother. This person meant so much to you. No way. And it turned out to be true. I just remember so many days of wanting someone to call, wanting someone to just say, hey, are you doing okay? And I don't want to take away from the people that I had in my life, because when I went back to school, I had my roommate, I had my friends, my cousin was at the university next door, and they did an amazing job at supporting me and making sure I was okay. Even my mentor, one of my professors, I mean, an amazing job at just making sure that I was okay. But I expected to hear from the people close to me, like family, and I didn't. And it came to a big surprise. And for a very long time, I was angry with these people. I was hurt. Like, how could you not call? I mean, I remember a wedding that we went to. It was like maybe a year after. And these people were walking by me and not even acknowledging. Like, are you all right? I know you just went through this event in your life, but are you doing all right? I didn't get that. I was very surprised because these people look you in your face at funerals and they give so much and they make it seem like they're going to be there for you, but it's like they forget about you. And now that I'm older, I feel a little differently about it. I feel like, sometimes everyone, they don't have the words to give you. They don't have the right things that they should say to you. So, a lot of times they don't know how to approach you. They may feel like if I say something, this person might be triggered. If I acknowledge it, it might make them grieve even more. I don't know what goes through people's minds. Now that I'm in the position of helping people through losing the loved ones in their lives, I can definitely understand and sympathize and empathize, but I don't know. I can't speak for anyone. But I will say, I feel like now I could have reached out to people more and let them know what my state of mind was and allowed them to help me cope through everything that I was dealing with. I don't know, but it was definitely a help that I was prepared for that, because I constantly reminded myself what that person shared with me. And I was like, yeah, they said I can expect this, and I guess this is what I'm getting. So, as I'm trying to navigate my new normal, my new life after losing my mother, I remember my professor decided to invite a speech pathologist to come and talk with us, to let us know all the wonderful things that we could expect after graduation. And it was a really good conversation. This speech pathologist, she had her own business. She had done so many wonderful things in the profession. And I was sitting there like, really excited because I was about to experience everything that she was talking about, and it just gives you this sense of everything that you can look forward to. And for a moment, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to call my mom. And then I realized I can't call her. And that's one of the things that I want to mention. Sometimes you will forget that you have lost this person, especially in the beginning stages of grief. There were moments when I just got so excited and overwhelmed with whatever was going on that I wanted to call her and share whatever happened. And it hit me, I can't. And that's not a good feeling, as you can imagine. But it gets better. It got better. After that moment, I sat in class, and you go through all the feelings again. Did this really happen? How could this happen? Why did this happen? And I started to think about the fact that I'm going to graduate and my mother is not going to be here to see it. I'm going to start my first job and my mother won't be here to see it. And your heart breaks all over again. I remember sitting there and thinking, okay, I have to leave this class immediately because I'm just going to break down. And I left, and as I'm going to my car, it hit me. I can't carry on life as normal. It's not anymore. I can't pretend like everything just has to carry on. And I can't pretend that everything just moves forward, because it can't. This tragic event in my life has altered the way things are. It's altered me as a person, and I definitely have to make provisions to deal with this. So that day I decided to quit my job. I was a work study student with my department chair, And I certainly loved working with her. I learned so much, I experienced so much, got to see a lot. It was a very difficult decision, but I will tell this to anyone who's going through this. Don't be afraid to not return to life as normal. Take your time. Do the things that you need to do. If you need a day off, if you need 2 weeks off, if you need to leave your job for a little bit, don't be afraid to make that decision, because ultimately it's your mental health, it's your grieving process. If you're not okay, don't pretend you are. Don't try to navigate this new world as if everything's the same, because it's not. In that same book by Megan Devine, she says something so profound. She says, it's not about moving on, it's about recovery. Recovery is about listening to your own devastation. It's about cultivating patience. Patience in the sense that grief and loss will carve their way through you. You have to change along with this process, and whatever it takes for you to get through it, you have to take those provisions. Don't pretend like everything is going to be okay, because it's not. You've lost not a puppy, but a loved one. And that's certainly what I did. It took me to acknowledge that she was no longer here. It took me to acknowledge that this profound person in my life is gone, and I will never hear them again. I will never see them again. And I didn't run away from that pain. I certainly did what that person said, and I grieved when I needed to. And the thing about losing a loved one is you can't run away from it, because pain is everywhere. Innocuous, everyday things become grief and reminders of that person not being there. You know, one of the best examples that I can give is whenever I go to the movies. It's one of my favorite things to do. And there have been movies that I never expected to ignite grief, ignite some pain or tears. And it'll be simple things. The storyline won't even be about grief. It'll be about something simple, but a character in the movie may have lost someone close to them, or they may be dealing with grief in some way. And it will cause me to just bawl. I remember I went to the movies to see this movie with Will Smith. I think it was like Collateral Beauty. And I had no idea what this movie was about. I knew that it touched on grief, but I didn't know the extent of the movie. And as I'm sitting there, this was maybe like 3 or 4 years after losing my mom. And I'm sitting in the movie like, okay, this is good. They're processing the grief. And all of a sudden, I just became overwhelmed with emotion. And maybe halfway through the movie, until the very end of it, I was bawling my eyes out like uncontrollably. And I was so embarrassed, but I didn't want to get up. I just wanted to finish this movie, but I was uncontrollably sobbing. And the good thing was it was a very emotional movie for everyone, so they were crying too. But I remember I was sobbing. I left the theater sobbing. I walked to my car sobbing. I drove home sobbing. And I sobbed for hours after I got home. And I had no expectation of grieving from watching that movie, but I did. Another instance was when the new Lion King movie came out. And I am watching this movie and going through all these emotions and feelings of nostalgia, and realized when I was young, I wanted to see this movie so bad. I missed it in theaters, and I begged my mom to allow me to get the tape. You know, this was VHS days. And I begged her, and finally she told my uncle, Jonathan wants this movie, you need to go and get it right now. And I remember a night where he came through my grandmother's door and handed me this movie, and it was a reminder of how much my mother loved me. And something simple like that memory came back as I'm watching this movie, and I paused. So it's everyday things that will bring back reminders of this person and cause pain. But my best advice is to not run away from that, to feel it, to experience it, and understand that this person is going to be in different areas of your life, and you can't suppress that. You just have to accept it, and that comes along with accepting that they're no longer here. So what worked for me? You know, they tell you the 5 stages of grief, and I guess that's supposed to be some blueprint to help us process things or understand. But when you're going through it, you're not like, okay, I'm in stage 4 now. No, you are living every day and just trying to move forward and get to the point of acknowledgement and acceptance. The first thing I did was I tried therapy. This did not work for me because when I went to therapy on campus, I am sharing my experience of loss and grief, and the therapist tells me that she has recently lost someone close to her. And I, in the therapy session, started consoling her. And she's crying and becoming emotional. And I'm just like, this isn't helping me. It took me years later to revisit therapy again, but that did not work for me initially because of that incident. Put a bad taste in my mouth towards therapy. So I would not recommend not going to therapy, but I would recommend getting a good therapist, a therapist that you like, that you connect with. It is hard finding a good therapist, but you have to do the work to get that, because when I went to my therapist, eventually it helped me and it uncovered areas of my life related to my mother that I had not realized or maybe suppressed, and it helped me to continue my stages of grief. Years down the line, you think, okay, it's over now and time gets better. It doesn't get better with time. In the book by Miss Divine, she talks about how some people may look at you and say, okay, it's been 8 years, it's been 6 months, whatever. You're not over this yet, or you're not getting better. And it's like, when you lose someone, that pain, that grief from losing them can feel like yesterday, even though it's been 16 years. So there is no time limit to grief. That's what I learned. For me, I did a lot of time out of the house, which anyone who knows me, I'm an introvert, I am a homebody, but for whatever the reason, just being out, being around people helped me a lot. I would take walks around campus. I would do a lot of people watching. For whatever reason, it just helped me a lot. I submerged myself in movies and television shows. That seemed to help me tremendously. I did a lot of writing. Divine talks about this in her book as well, how getting in touch with your creativity, or whether it's painting, writing, arts and craft activities, it helps you because it frees you from our cultural expectations of not sharing your pain. A lot of times we feel like we can't tell people what we're going through. We can't tell people how we feel. We just have to suffer through it. When you're able to get in touch with your creative side to process your grief, it frees you. It helps you to survive the loss, because we're so conditioned to not say what hurts. There is a freedom in letting the words out when it's written. There's a freedom in letting your feelings out when it's expressed through creativity, because you are able to process your emotions a lot better than you can by giving these things words, because like I said in the beginning, it's very difficult to put language to how you feel. All in all, I got down to one thing, and that was the love that I share with my mother. Knowing that in this life, I shared something so meaningful that I'll always be able to take with me for the rest of my life. You know, a lot of people don't always have the love that they need in their lives, but fortunately for me, I was able to experience that, and I miss her a lot every day. There's not a day that goes by that you don't think about the person you've lost, but it's the love that keeps me going. I can't stress that enough. And also knowing that it's okay to not be okay. Cry, feel. It's about knowing that you're going to get through this, but allowing that pain to exist and remembering the love that you share with this person. I know that's not a whole lot to go by, but I hope that someone's able to see this and it helps process things for them. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you guys next time. Bye.